Today we're looking at more new post-rotation decks from Japan, since you guys are really enjoying this kind of content. And this is going to include this 9-0 Ends Zoroark deck that I happened to come across on Twitter and see this explanation. So we don't typically know the records and some of the reasonings behind a lot of these City League decks and these City League results. So it was cool to see this saying that they won the City League with a perfect score of 9-0, and they said that the Hourglass card was very strong. So we're going to actually start with this deck over on Limitless's City Leagues. Real quick before we get into the deck list, guys, if you are looking to become better at the Pokemon TCG, learn the reasons why you're losing, learn the systems and skills that it takes to become a consistent player. I have this Metafy page here. I offer one-on-one coaching. I also offer a completely inclusive competitive Pokemon TCG masterclass, which teaches you pretty much everything I know about the fundamentals of the game and even more advanced stuff. If you're interested, click this link that's in the description down below. You can also check out testimonies from a whole bunch of my students who have been very happy with what I taught them, and a lot of my students have gone on to do great things in the game. Now let's get to the deck lists. So Limitless is updated with another day of City League results. We're going to start with that Ends Zoroark deck that I was talking about, since we saw that it went 9-0. Super interesting to start with this one. So let's go ahead and open it in the Limitless deck builder. Limitless is just so great. It has a deck builder. You could even, by the way, guys, you can just click this playtest tool right here on the Limitless deck builder, and it opens up the deck. So, we can just go ahead and do this and start testing out new decks this way. Let's just play a couple of turns here so you see how this works. It's all none of it's automated, so you do have to do it by hand, but like when you click, I'm going to click Buddy Poffin and then type H on my keyboard, and it's going to send it to my hand. And then I'm going to do the same thing for TM Evo, and then we'll go ahead and play the Buddy Poffin. You get some Zaruas down, Nest Ball. We'll get a Little Darmanitan. I don't know what he's called. Then we'll go Evo, attach, and use our TM Evo for turn. So you get to play out your turn ones, play out whatever you want, test out decks, learn how to play them with this play test tool, which is very, very cool. So let's go back to the deck now. And this is what you guys came here for the deck lists. So Ends Zoroark, we covered a lot of these new cards in yesterday's video, so I definitely suggest going and watching that one first if you don't know what most of these new cards do, because I did take some time to go over them in yesterday's video. So Ends Zoroark, of course, we have draw power here, and it's going to be our main attacker, choosing one of your benched Ends Pokemon to use as its attack. Now, one of the best attacks here is Ends Darmanitan. It has the Hydreigon Cannon. Discard all energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 90 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon as well. So it does 90 active, 90 to the bench. Now, this is good with Ends Zoroark, because Ends Zoroark only costs 2 dark energy to use its Night Joker attack. And this deck is playing this Power Glass tool, which the pilot of this said was very strong. So the Power Glass tool says at the end of your turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, you may attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to it. So if you use Ends Zoroark's Night Joker attack for 2 dark energy to copy the Darmanitan attack, which discards all of your energy, Ends Zoroark will be left with 0 energy. But then at the end of the turn, you will attach a basic from your discard that you just discarded back onto the Zoroark, and then next turn Zoroark will only need 1 manual attachment to attack again. Of course, for energy acceleration, we also have the Ends PP up. Attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Ends Pokemon. And then for attacking straight up with the Darmanitan, we have 2 reversal energies. So as long as you're behind in prize cards, and this is attached to an evolution Pokemon without a rule box, which Ends Darmanitan is, it counts as 3 rainbow energy. So you can just use that for the Hydreigon Cannon as well. Now let's move on to some other decks. Wanted to start with highlighting this because it went 9-0. Deck looks really well built and has a lot of synergy between the cards. So I wanted to definitely showcase that. I guess we'll start with this City League since we're already clicked into it here. So second place was a Gholdengo Dragapult. Now we've seen Gholdengo Dragapult from Japan pre-rotation, I want to say. It's a very interesting concept. So Gholdengo is going to be the main attacker. The ability coin bonus, you get to draw cards, make it rain, does 50 times the amount of basic energies you discard. So Gholdengo naturally plays a lot of basic energies. And because of using the Energy Search Pro A spec, which allows you to search for any number of basic energy cards of different types, Gholdengo plays every type of energy. And now this lends itself to some interesting tech or different partners you could put into the deck. And here we have Dragapult EX. But Dragapult EX as an additional line in the deck of Pokemon is twofold. It's not only because you have Dragapult EX, which is a very strong attacker with no weakness and high HP, and we already have the energy for it in the deck, and we already have Crispin to accelerate energy to it. It's not only for those reasons, but also because Dracloak is a draw support Pokemon. This can be sort of your engine. Once during your turn, you may look at the top two cards of your deck and put them into your hand, put one into your hand, the other on the bottom. So you can use Recon Directive, then Coin Bonus, Coin Bonus, Coin Bonus. Maybe something got knocked out and you just flip the script, and you get a lot of cards every turn that way. So this is a pretty cool combination that at first glance looks like they just smashed two EX Pokemon together and said, make it work. It actually does have some cohesion to it. So pretty interesting. And, you know, when you run out of the Gholdengos or you can't get your energy back, or you know you're out of resources, or maybe just you need to knock out multiple Pokemon at once. Maybe you missed a knockout with Gholdengo, so you can gust up a weaker Pokemon and knock out two things at once with Dragapult's Phantom Dive. So pretty interesting stuff, and it's an archetype that we've seen be placing in tournaments more than once, more than just for like one weekend or something. So it might have some legs to it. Here in sixth place, I see a Dusknoir Hops Zacian deck, and I'm just jumping around looking to see what interests me, what might interest the viewers. So remember, if you guys want to look at every single City League deck list, just go to limitlesstcg.com, click Tournaments, then click City Leagues. But let's take a look at this Dusknoir Zacian deck, and we're going to click Open in Builder. So, so I looked at a couple of these lists before hitting record. What's interesting about this one is you'll notice there are no metal energy in the deck. This is solely going to be trying to attack with Instant Slash, which is 30 and 30. But of course, if you have the Choice Band to do plus 30, you have the Stadium to do plus 30, you have the Hop Snorlax to do plus 30. That means you're doing 120 to the active and 30 to a bench. So this actually works really well with Dusclops and Dusknoir. We also see here that we have the Hops bag in this deck. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Hops Pokemon and put them onto your bench. So that just gets your Zacian, your Snorlax, your Cramorant pretty easily. This Cramorant, of course, has the whimsical Spit attack. If your opponent doesn't have exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, this attack does nothing. But remember that we have Hop's Choice Band that not only buffs the attacks by 30, it also makes the Hops Pokemon's attacks cost 1 less. So although this deck does play 4 Jet Energy, you can use this attack for free with a Hops Choice Band on it. Use this attack for free with a Hops Choice Band on it. And then end game, we have Blood Moon Ursaluna, which can attack for a whole lot of damage for sometimes 0 energy because of its seasoned skill ability. Now, this is one that I actually do want to click playtest on and see what we can do. So let's say that we're going first with this deck. Ooh, prizes are a little weird. Let's say we're going first with this deck. So we start bundle. We draw for turn. Okay. We definitely would want some Dusclopses down. Let's use Hop's bag. Okay, good. This deck plays Squawkabilly, so I think we would use Squawkabilly turn 1 here. We're going to Hop's bag for Zacian and Snorlax. And it does stink to get rid of some of these cards, but we want to have a bunch of Duskulls on the board. And I don't know if 1 Duskull is enough. Let's see. 1 Duskull could maybe be enough. Let's look at the deck list again. How are we going to get the... okay, so it plays Prime Catcher. We could get the Delibird or the Iron Bundle out of the deck, out of the active with the Prime Catcher. Just learning the deck list here a little bit because we do have Arven. So like next turn, okay, yeah, this is actually pretty sick. So we're gonna keep only the cards that we absolutely need here. So we're gonna Ultra Ball away those two for Duskull, and just to show you guys what this deck is capable of, we're gonna not use Squawkabilly here because we actually have a pretty cool combo of cards here. So that would be our first turn. We pass it over to the opponent. Let's say that they're also playing a deck that sets up. Maybe they're not knocking out our Iron Bundle right away. Now, let's note, of course, also if they use Badoo. Badoo's a very popular Pokemon, says you can't play item cards next turn. Very possible that the opponent could play that, but let's say they didn't, just for the sake of this exercise. So they start setting up their board, yada yada. Now it's our turn. Okay, great. So we have Arven for, of course, Hop's Choice Band and Prime Catcher, and then we can Prime Catcher up something that ideally will have 90 HP or less. And this is because with the Snorlax on the bench and Hop's Choice Band here, our attack will do 90 to the active and 30 to the bench. Now, if there's a Pokemon on the bench that we want to knock out that has 150, actually 160 HP or less, maybe like a Squawkabilly or just another single prize Pokemon, we rare candy down this Dusknoir. We can go ahead and pop the Dusknoir. The opponent takes a prize, and then we can swing with this Zacian for 90 active, 30 on the bench, maybe just knocking out two single prize Pokemon that way, thanks to the Dusknoir pop as well. So just a little glimpse into how this deck might work and what it's trying to do. We'll click back to deck. I'm not going to do that with every deck today, just since I'm talking about the play testing mechanism. I thought that's a great way to show how some of these decks might work. And this is a deck I was pretty interested in because I think it's really cool. Okay, so let's go back to the City League results. See if there's anything here we want to look at. Here's a Dragapult Hydreigon deck, actually. Let's open up this one. So Dragapult and Hydreigon can work together for a couple of reasons. Number one, they both spread damage. So Phantom Dive does 200 and puts 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like. And Hydreigon's Obsidian attack does 130 to the active and 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So what's cool is both of these cards can benefit from Crispin because they use weird energy costs. And they can both benefit from Neo Upper Energy because of such weird energy costs, and because they're both Stage 2 Pokemon. Of course, you could also use Sparkling Crystal with these, but Neo Upper Energy lends itself much better to Hydreigon EX. And then because of Dragapult's middle stage Dracloak having a built-in support ability, you don't really need too many other support Pokemon to make this work. Just kind of like a rule of standard almost that you want to look for stage 2 Pokemon that have a good either stage 1 or basic. You see this even with something like Charizard. The Charmeleons, there's Flare Veil to protect it from Devo and to protect it from Phantom Dive. There's some Charmeleons that had good damage outputs at some points in the meta last year. Of course, Gardevoir EX is a great example of this. It has Kirlia with Refinement. You really want to look for stage 2s that have a good supportive stage 1, and then sometimes even just stage 1s that help them survive a little bit, like that Charmeleon I mentioned. So pretty cool deck, focusing on damage spread, focusing on stage 2s. Probably looking to go like turn 2 Candy, start attacking, but you also have the Badoo if you need to save some time. We're going to look at this City League real quick. Now, this City League does have only 8 players shown for Top Cut, so I do wonder, was this a smaller event? And I wonder if we could find that out. Let's see. Ranking. Does it show how many people? No, they just say maximum 64. I think they all say maximum 64. Oh, no, some of them say maximum 32. But most of them maximum 64. Okay, I don't know if we'll be able to find out how many people actually played in this event. But this event is chock full of interesting decks. So let's start with this top one here. We've got an Aegislash deck. So this is actually something I covered when Aegislash came out, the little Aegislash here. It has the same ability as Mimikyu, essentially, protecting itself from damage from EX and V, V Pokemon, of course, don't matter anymore because they're rotated out, and it swings for 120. You can give this thing a lot of HP with Luxurious Cape, so that boosts it all the way up to 250 health. And then you kind of counter basic Pokemon decks a little bit with the Pokemon League headquarters if you can get this to stick. And then there's an Aegislash EX that can be good for finishing up the game. It does 70 for each prize card you have taken for just 1 energy, and then it has a 2 energy to do 220 attack as well. And then they're playing Grand Tree as their ace spec here, which allows you to evolve up. So you can go from Honedge to Doublade, Doublade to Aegislash all in one turn with the help of the Grand Tree. And yeah, this deck list got first at this City League. So, and we talked about this with the wall decks yesterday. You know, these cards that say your opponent can't hit you with X kind of Pokemon. When the card pool is smaller and more people are using the same strategies, the same Pokemon, the same kinds of attackers, then the meta becomes counterable and you can use things like this. But it's not unbeatable. As long as you have things that can attack these kinds of Pokemon, you'll be fine. Next, we have a Ceruledge with Revavroom deck here. So Ceruledge, of course, pretty linear attacker, just doing 30 plus 20 more for each energy in your discard pile. And I do want to note, by the way, that Darmanitan actually has its first attack that kind of counters Ceruledge, because Ceruledge puts a whole lot of energy into the discard pile, and then Darmanitan has this attack does 30 damage for each basic energy card in your opponent's discard pile, so it actually counters Ceruledge EX a little bit, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so this Ceruledge deck is using Revavroom from Scarlet Violet base as its draw effect, its draw engine, discard energy from your hand, and then draw until you have 6. They're also using this unreleased Tapu Koko, which I've seen in a few decks. One, it has free retreat, and 2, the Raikou V, Entei V, Suicune V, all the things with the Rondo attacks, they rotated out. So you don't have Raikou anymore. So if you want an attack that does more damage for your benched Pokemon to use in tandem with, actually this deck isn't using Area 0, but to use in tandem with Area 0, which we'll see in some other decks, I think. This Tapu Koko is a pretty good choice because, like I said, it also has free retreat. And this deck, kind of like Gholdengo, Ceruledge doesn't mind running a couple extra types of energy cards because it has to run a lot of energy cards. So it runs some Dark for the Monkey Dory, it runs some Lightning for the Tapu Koko. And yeah, that's Ceruledge Revavroom. Then we've got an Archaladon Zacian deck here. So focusing on the Archaladon, which accelerates metal energies, then 2 Zacian as a secondary attacker. Hops Snorlax, of course, to support the Hops Zacian, some Hops Choice Bands, and Brock Scouting, which is a card that I've seen popping up. It gets searched either for 2 basics or 1 evolution, so it's a card that you could be happy to see it turn 1, you could be happy to see it later in the game too, so I love cards that are like that are bimodal. Then we've got this Slaking EX deck. Let's read Slaking. If your opponent has no Pokemon EX or Pokemon in V in play, this Pokemon cannot attack, and it does 280 in discard and energy. So 340 health. It does a lot of damage. We've got this spike energy in here as well. If this Pokemon is damaged, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Okay, so that's really cool because if you swing 280 at them and then they hit you back, now they're at 300 damage taken. Slaking, of course, also benefits from Glass Trumpet, which is really nice. You have to have a Terra Pokemon in play, but the Pokemon you attach the energies to do not have to be Terra Pokemon. So this is one of those situations where, like, is this really better than just playing a focused Terrapagos deck? Would I rather the Slaking line be Dusknoir? Yeah, I'd probably rather the Slaking line be Dusknoir, but it's pretty cool that this can work. Then we've got this deck, which is really sweet. So this is a focused Pikachu EX deck. It's really cool. So they're playing a 4-3 line of Noctowl, a 3-3 line of Magneton, which can knock itself out to accelerate energies to your Lightning Pokemon. And then this Pikachu EX is going to be the main attacker. Of course, with the Resolute Hard attack, it becomes harder to knock out in one shot. And then the Topaz Bolt attack does 300 damage. And 300 damage does miss Dragapult. It misses Charizard. It misses Hydreigon. But Gravity Mountain brings each Stage 2 Pokemon down minus 30 health, so that'll help against most Stage 2 EXs. And then here in 6th place, we do see a Mamoswine deck again, and they're featuring some new Stage 2s, different from the Mamoswine deck that we saw yesterday. So Mamoswine Quick Refresher, its ability is search your deck for a Pokemon, and its attack is 180 plus 40 more for each of your benched Stage 2 Pokemon. So you want a lot of Stage 2s when you're playing this deck. They're playing a line of Garganackle here. It has the ability Energizing Rock Salt. Once a turn, you may attach a basic fighting energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. And if you attach energy to a Pokemon in this way, heal 30 from that Pokemon. Now, what Mamoswine is sorely missing, in my opinion, like, I just wish Cheryl was still around. Every time I see Mamoswine, heal all damage from each of your evolution and discard all energy from the Pokemon that were healed in this way, because Mamoswine has so much health that it only needs 2 energy to attack, and there's options for accelerating energy, but alas, we do not have Cheryl right now in the game. And we got this Shiftry, so let's see, do we have Grass Energy? We do not have Grass Energy, so we're only using the second. Energy Loop does 140. Put an energy attached to this Pokemon into your hand. Why would we want to do that? So it's Grass type, so it hits Grass Pokemon, or it hits Grass weakness, which is something, maybe. I don't know. The Shiftry is the Shiftry is a bit of a weird inclusion in my opinion, but I'm sure there's some sort of good reason for that, maybe. And then, of course, Klinklang and Luxray, they each have effects that allow you to bench them straight up as a Stage 2 Pokemon, so they're great for buffing Mamoswine EX's damage output. Next, we've got a Flareon Noctowl deck here again, and this one's also playing that Tapu Koko that I mentioned. I might have underrated the Flareon deck yesterday in yesterday's video, because Flareon EX, it can just do 280, and it's not that hard to power it up because you do have the Glass Trumpets, which can power up your Eevee, and then you evolve over it onto Flareon. And also you're playing Crispin, and also Flareon itself can accelerate energies to your Pokemon with the Burning Charge attack. And if you go second, you can start attacking on your first turn, because Boosted Evolution allows you to evolve straight away. Something interesting here, the person who built this obviously thought about the math and stuff that goes into this deck a lot, because they play 2 of this Victini that says attacks used by your evolved fire Pokemon do 10 more damage, and then they're playing 2 Gravity Mountain, which says each Stage 2 Pokemon in play gets minus 30. So your Flareon with those 2 Victinis on the bench will do 300 instead of 280. And then Gravity Mountain, minus 30. That means you're knocking out Charizard. You're knocking out Dragapult EX. So that is pretty cool. And then, like I mentioned, some decks are playing this Tapu Koko EX. Free Retreat does a good bit of damage. It's a pretty cool card to see being splashed into things in this new format. I'm seeing a lot of Raging Bolt with Noctowl now. I know people tried to make Raging Bolt with Noctowl work when Noctowl came out, but now it seems like this is becoming the more popular way to go in post-rotation. We're losing Pokestop, which was a big deal for Raging Bolt, a big deal for a lot of decks. So there's plenty of cards that decks are trying to fill the gap for. Like Stage 2 decks have to replace Rotom and Forest Seal Stone and Lumineon. Faster aggro decks have to replace Pokestop. So, but yeah, this is looking pretty typical for the Raging Bolt decks. So if you wanted to see what a Raging Bolt deck looks like right now in post-rotation in Japan with the new set and everything, I'm seeing several decks that are looking like this. But of course, this is early days. We're looking at early deck lists. This is just to get an idea, to look at some cool things, to pique interest, to start deciding what kind of decks we might want to play in a couple of months. And then we've got this ninth place, which I don't really like looking at the bottom 16, like the 9th through 16 lists, but it's cool. We've got an Uxie Froslass deck here, of course, featuring Badoo, feature Monkey Dory. Now, what this does is Uxie does 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon, and Froslass, of course, spreads damage around on each Pokemon that has an ability. So the thing I'd like to see in this deck, especially since it's already playing Arven and Tools, I'd like to see Gravity Gemstone. So you can bring up Pokemon, try to lock them into the active, and then just let damage spread and wreak havoc. We got to shout out Charizard Pidgeot here, trying to just keep trucking along, not looking very different, except like I mentioned, Stage 2 decks lost Rotom, Forest Stone, Lumineon, so I don't know. I think the Charizard Noctowl deck is just better than this, and speaking of, here's Charizard Noctowl in second place. Bit of an interesting build, mind you. They're fitting a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff in here, but I think the Noctowl line makes up for missing the Forest Seal Stone and the Rotom because there's so many things you need to search for to get this deck set up. Here we have a second place Gardevoir deck. Gardevoir is still trying to find out how to build itself because Curly with Refinement's gone. This one doesn't really replace the draw power much in the Pokemon lines. However, they do play like 1 or 2 extra draw supporters compared to modern Guardy decks. And then this is a deck I definitely wanted to showcase as well. So it's using this Okidogi. Uh, Okidogi with Adrena Power. If this Pokemon has any dark energy attached, it gets plus 100 health, and the attacks it used do 100 more damage. So you get a Luminous Energy on this thing, or just 2 fighting in a dark, or Legacy Energy, and it has 230 health, and now it's doing 170 damage. You can also combine this with, so you use Lively Stadium as well to give it an extra plus 30. So now it has 260 health. And then you add a Bravery Charm, and now it has 310 health. And just like that, you have a single prize Pokemon that has 310 health, and it's swinging for 170 a turn. So this is really interesting. You can also use the Monkey Dory, of course, to supplement damage if you have damage on your board. So that could essentially turn the 170 into 200. It makes your good punch a great punch. So really interesting deck. And yeah, it only got 7th place, but a really cool one nonetheless that I wanted to feature. And here's actually a 2nd place list of using the same Okidogi. So this one is definitely built a little different, but still using, Luminous Energy, Legacy Energy, Lively Stadium, Bravery Charms. We got this Ting Lu in here that if there's a Stadium in play, this attack does 30 active and then 30 each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and you discard the Stadium in play. So that one is pretty cool to see being used as well. And like I said, this one got 2nd place, so showing some potential for the fighting type Okidogi deck. And here we have a Charizard EX deck with N's Zoroark as the draw engine. Of course, trade is a draw engine that we know works from the past. Just discard a card and draw 2. It's the same as Curly's Refinement as well. So a decent draw engine. We'll have to see if it's good enough. Again, I think Charizard's going to be best with the Noctowl engine. Here we have a 1st place Dragapult EX with Blaziken EX deck. So of course we know what Dragapult EX does. Blaziken EX has 320 health and the ability Boiling Fighting Spirit. Attaches a basic energy from your discard to one of your Pokemon. Any kind of energy, any of your Pokemon. So this is amazing energy acceleration, making sure that your Dragapult EX is always able to attack. We've also got Lily's Clefairy in here that, of course, is going to be great if you're playing against an opposing Dragapult. Make it a lot easier to get those things down because now they have weakness to Psychic. One more Raging Bolt deck list for the road. This is a 1st place list. It's running the 2/2 Noctowl and a Fan Rotom to search out those Hoots and Noctowls. This looks like a really, really clean list, so I wanted to show this one too. And of course, you could find all of these on limitlesstcg.com. And we have just two more, I think, two more lists I wanted to show for today's video. So one is this one. It's a second place Archaludon with Room as some draw support, but it's playing a 2-2 line of Hops Double, which allows you to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon when you evolve it. So it's a boss's orders effect on evolving a single prize Pokemon. So actually really, really good. And you can even like scoop up Cyclone, replace the double. So next turn you get the gust effect as well. Just trying to end the game as fast as you can, going knockout, knockout, knockout on 2 prize Pokemon. And then the last deck I want to take a look at here is just a quick look at this Iono's Bellybolt, Iono's Kilowattrel deck list. Also with the Iono's Voltorb. So Iono's Voltorb is actually the main attacker here. It does 20 damage plus 20 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Iono's Pokemon. And it plays 19 lightning energy. So if you have your Iono's Kilowattrels down, and you have your Iono's Bellybolt EX. Iono's Bellybolt EX says you can attach a basic lightning energy from your hand to your Iono's Pokemon as often as you like. So you just put a whole bunch of energy down. Let's say you get 8 energies onto the board. Then your Iono's Voltorb does 180 damage, and it's only a single prizer. So that's pretty good, and it's very easy to get energy in this deck. You play Letter of Encouragement, which searches for energy. You've got the Levincia Stadium that gets you energy back. Your Iono's Kilowattrel is your draw engine. Now, I don't think this deck is going to be high tier or anything, but it's very cool to see these engines come together and see the Iono's Pokemon all working together. Wanted to let y'all know about my Substack. It is a free subscription. I put out articles from time to time, but also there's just a good collection, a good archive of educational articles here. So if you're looking to get better at the game, looking to get an understanding of how people who have been playing for a very long time think about the game, you can check out my Substack in the description down below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content. Again, the deck lists today are from limitlesstcg.com, and you just go click tournaments and then city leagues, and you can find all these awesome resources, all these deck lists to look at, new cards and everything, new ideas. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time here on Celio's Network.